Hi guys, I'm cold as ice on Tumblr. This is my 200 followers video. I had a few people ask me some questions. Half of them were from Ask Ant-Man, who I've interacted with once and didn't after that, and we really ought to because of reasons. And that's the only... because I do what I want, damn it. No. Ask Ant-Man's first question was, what made you decide to roleplay as Loki? And that was actually, it kind of happened on a whim. I hadn't even seen Thor or the Avengers yet when I just kind of got the muse. What happened was I was joining a new gaming group with my cousins, and I needed a new handle because I'm tired of using my old one. It's kind of dumb. So they suggested Loki Cat because I'm evil and adorable. And so Loki Cat became my Tumblr thing, and then Arrows and Snark, who hadn't made his Hawkeye yet, but he was teasing me about it, and then the next thing you know, I'm watching Thor and the Avengers and have a Loki muse, and he's really loud. And so you can blame my cousins, and then further after that you can blame Arrows and Snark, because I probably wouldn't have actually made an RP account if it weren't for him. So I probably would have just RP'd with him, but if he hadn't suggested, made me feel so good about the muse, I probably wouldn't have made an account. Do you do writing outside of role-playing? I do actually do writing outside of role-playing. Part of the reason I role-play is to get a better handle on my writing. That's why I'll sometimes not respond for a couple days if I don't feel my writing's up to par. I actually want to eventually be a novelist. I have a whole bunch of original characters and a whole world called, well, it's called Eden. It's basically based on the idea that humans misinterpret everything, and so Eden is what happened. The world split apart, and it's a parallel world, and there's dragons, and there's fae, and there's daemons. They're kind of like demons, and there's all kinds of stuff, and I have all these characters in the world and they're set up, and so I do that. Right now I kind of just do drabbles of the characters, and that is a Tumblr called No Ordinary Eden. It's really like, I guess I really like fantasy, and there's a little bit of sci-fi element in it sometimes. He asked me, who's your favorite philosopher? I actually don't do philosophy stuff. I don't know, it's like, it's this big circle jerk, and it just goes around and around and around, and you don't really get anywhere except for to confuse the fuck out of yourself. And I admire people that like philosophy and that's their thing, but I don't really like it. Outside of that, I do have a favorite philosopher just because of Tumblr RP, because I have an OC that I play, rarely. I seem to have abandoned him for Loki. But there's a person on there who plays Voltaire, and because of them, Voltaire is my favorite philosopher, just because of how awesome that they are. So that's my favorite philosopher, but it's because of Tumblr. Let's see. the-real-anubis asked me pop culture references, where they shouldn't be, and what do you do about it? Well, I'm assuming you mean in RP. I do get really put off when some character shouldn't know a pop culture reference, or shouldn't like it doesn't make sense for them to know it because it doesn't exist in their universe, or they're somebody who isn't exposed to it. It gets irritating. Though the people I RP with, for the most part, don't do that. It does get annoying, but I kind of tend to ignore it. Sometimes if I know the person well enough, I'll talk to them and be like, hey, out of character in private, I'll be like, hey, your character really shouldn't know that, and sometimes they explain it, and sometimes they're like, whatever, but a lot of times I'll just ignore it or pretend it didn't happen, or just assume maybe their character picked it up somewhere that they shouldn't have. I don't know. It's weird, but I don't really do much about it, if that makes sense. Born a Goddess, she asked me too. She is the Sif that I RP with all the time. What situation have you always wanted to put Loki in? And I actually had to think about that one. So I actually had to write down my answer and think about it a minute. It didn't come right to me like all the other stuff did. And I think the answer to that would be that I'd like him to see things from Thor's perspective. Like, I'd like him to actually be Thor, like feel what he feels and see what he sees and know what he knows and see himself through his brother's eyes. I would really like to put Loki in a situation like that. The problem is that I think he would probably counter it because he's a dick and he wouldn't take from the experience what he should. But it's still something that I would like to see done. He really, really cares for Thor deep, but it's buried so deep down that it's hard to accept. So I think that maybe that would be something really good to put him through on that front. She asked me, what is the best thing you've ever eaten? She asked Loki. Well, to be honest, Tiff, I would have to say you. Ask-Captain-Jack-Harkness asked me, he asked me from his Tony account, but he was asking about Jack. He said, what do Loki and Loki-mun think of Jack and Jack-mun? Well, you were actually one of the first people I started to talk to all the time on this account, and I'm a huge fan of Torchwood, even though I haven't seen it in forever, so I like forget everything, because short-term memory, what do? But you're really sweet. I know you have your stuff, but I think that Jack-mun's pretty awesome. I think that Jack's pretty cool, because Jack's a sexy beast. Loki likes, you know, being able to get away with killing him over and over again and you don't even get mad. That's kind of a bonus, I guess. I don't know. You cater to his crazy. That's good. There's feelings there, but you know, they're buried under like 10 tons of crazy, so. Oh, and the mun loves the mun. Okay, so you come to me all the time already, but if you need to come to me for anything else, okay. Millionaire Genius Playboy asked me, what's the best thing about playing Loki for me? The best thing about playing Loki for me is that I have, no, not to his extent, but I have some of my own demons. I recently had a discussion, recently being like around Christmas time, but had a discussion with my mother that in my family I'm kind of like, to make a Family Guy reference, the person that everybody has to kind of be negative towards, and they put all their, like, they shove all their blame onto me, like, to make everything work. Especially my stepfather does it, and it has to be that way. Like, we don't function unless they're blaming me for stuff, even if it's not really my fault. And my mother kind of agreed with that. My sister does it, even though we're really close, and my stepdad does it all the time. He looks for, if there's nothing for him to get mad at me about, he makes up some shit. And my mom does it, and to a lesser extent, my extended family does. And it's kind of a shitty feeling, even though you love them, to know that that's kind of your role in life. Whatever. There's also the fact that they have all this stuff that I can't tell my family, and I think that they would see me kind of as a monster if I told them the truth, because my family, except for my sister, doesn't know that I'm transgendered or pansexual or polyamorous. They don't know this stuff about me. They think I'm just this little straight girl, which I'm not. I'm far from being a girl anymore. I'm feminine sometimes, but not a girl. And it's just, you know, it's hard because I'm basically living a lie all the time. And because I moved home to stay with my dad, and he's old and having health issues, but I have to deal with all my other family and deal with that stuff, and it's really, really hard to basically pretend to be somebody else all the time, and it's wearing. And there's all these other things. I've had really messed up stuff, like all kinds of stuff that I'm not going to go into detail to, because you guys don't need to know all that happened. And weirdly enough, being Loki and having his problems, like writing his stuff, really helps me work through some of my own. And weirdly enough, helps me work with my self-confidence through his ego. It seems kind of a twisted way to work through problems by doing it through a villain, but he really helps me. He's kind of taken over all my other muses though, so it's really hard to write anybody else anymore. But yeah, that's why I really like Loki. I like getting inside of his head and looking at the complexities rather than just looking at the surface like so many people want to do to people, is just look at the surface of stuff. And I really like to think about why he is the way he is, and for as twisted he is, there's still certain motivations and certain things that drive him and where they come from. And why they're there and why it can't go away, and all this heaviness that he has about himself, this self-doubt and this lack of confidence and belief in himself, and that makes him put everybody else down just to make himself feel better. He just wants to be seen for who he really is, and he doesn't think anybody ever is going to, so he operates under the assumption that nobody will. Meanwhile, he's struggling to still be known, so it's self-conflict. It's really good. It's really fun to write, but really hard to write sometimes. But there's your reasons. Because I'm worthy asked me, and now I'm all embarrassed. He said, "What's your secret? How are you such a good RPer? Or, if it's easier, how are you such a good Loki?" I don't think I'm that great of an RPer. I think I've been doing it a long time. I've been writing RP since just before my 13th birthday. So, and now I'm 27. So, time, effort. If you wanted to get more specific, I'd probably say why I'm so good at Loki. There are better Lokis out there. Not But Misery Rings intimidates the fuck out of me. I won't even lie. I'm like, huh. Because they're even more twisted than I am. I think part of the key to role-playing a canon character, really well is, one, to be able to identify with them. When you're writing, you want to be able to identify with your character. You want to be able to put yourself in their shoes. Rather than just like thinking from the outside. You have to kind of feel what they feel a little bit to really get into the character. Not to say that you should confuse yourself with them, but just try to identify with what their driving purpose is. If you can't identify with them, if they don't make sense to you, then you're probably not going to be able to write. The other reasons I think that some people, I guess, think I write Loki well is I've overanalyzed the hell out of him. I spend a lot of time talking to Arrows and Snark about what really drives Loki and how he changed and what he used to be and how he is now, and how he got this far from where he was. I've tried to read some of the comic books as well, although there's a lot to go through, and he's kind of two-dimensional in the comics. He's kind of flat and without real purpose, like real drive. He's very boring, I guess, to me, but hilarious. So like I try to put some of that into my Loki as well, and taking the time to look at other people's like the way they've analyzed the movie and certain scenes really helps too. Joss Whedon doesn't do anything by accident. So if you look at especially the little things in the Avengers, like the single tear when he stabs Thor, when Thor's talking to him, just the little pieces of things, how sick he looks when he lands, when he first shows up in the movie. So you know that each one of these little things, these tiny little things that somebody might miss, are some of the most important parts. So that's the stuff that you really want to focus on when learning a character, and so that's what I did with Loki. And I'm still doing. I try to really just understand him. I also try to look at a lot of interviews with Tom Hiddleston asking about Loki, because when Tom Hiddleston talks about Loki, obviously he knows a lot about Loki. He was him. So that's why I spend a lot of time analyzing him and looking at him and trying to understand who Loki is. Thor asks Loki, "Where did you hide my helmet? Don't even try to say it wasn't you, I know it was." I'm not telling you, Thor. Golden Locks says, "Brother, where have you placed the tarts of popping? I am hungry and I want them." I threw them all off the Bifrost. They were taking up, you put them in my room, and no, I threw them off the Bifrost, and if you bring more to Asgard, I'm going to throw the rest off the Bifrost, and no, they're disgusting. No, Thor. No. Thunderstomper asks, "Brother, when was the last you felt guilt?" The very last time was when Mother was talking to me as the Allfather slept from the guilt, the very guilt of all that he had done wrong to me. Not that he really truly cares, but that somebody might know. That's what really sent him into Odin's sleep. But Mother speaking to me of love and family. And just before you showed up for the last time, I felt the tiniest piece of guilt. Thunderstomper asks, why would Mjolnir deign you unworthy? It was not Mjolnir, it was father. Your father, not my father. My father's dead and gone, and good riddance to him. It was the All-Father's decision. His curse that he placed upon the hammer has nothing to do with me, other than the fact that he hates me and would never have me wield it. That's why. The hammer didn't choose. All-Father chose. Because it was only ever meant for you. The golden child, the perfect one. Because there is no one good enough to come close to you, and no one will ever be as equal as in his eyes. You're his only child, as far as he's concerned. I'm just a tool for him to use to greater his throne, greater his place. Yeah, that was shit. Anyways, I had one other one, but I didn't write it down. But Barbie said, I'm gonna shout it from over here. Why are you always wonderful and fantastic? I love you so much. Why are you wonderful and a wonderful role player? And my answer to Barbie is, I do what I want. No, my answer to Barbie is, because I've known you for fucking ever, and I know you from Twitter, and I've known you for years, and even though we've never interacted that much in character ever, you've always been somebody that I could talk to, so I want to be that same person for you. Pardon my shitty acting, because acting's not my strong suit. That's why I write, because I can't act. No. Thank all of you for your questions, and I hope to stick around. I don't know how I hit 200 followers. You guys are amazing. Just thank you for following me. I kind of never had that many followers on an independent account before. It's crazy. But thank you, everybody, and much love from the Mun, because I'm not batshit crazy like Loki is, I promise. Well, a little bit. Hawkass would probably tell you I am just as crazy as Loki, just not as evil. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching, and maybe I'll do something else for 300 if I get that far. Yeah, right. Alright, thanks for watching.